If you hear a little noise in the background, it's because I'm supposed to be getting on a helicopter to head to North Carolina, which I'm going to be doing right after this. And the Vice President and I, though, want to lay out what we just settled, at least for the moment, as well as with our jobs cabinet. Secretary Buttigieg is here. Good to see you, Mr. Secretary. Secretary Fudge, Secretary Granholm, Secretary. There you are. Okay, you guys got to make sure. I thought everybody was on this side. I was Secretary Raimondo and Secretary Walsh. I also want to thank Senator Shelley Caputo for her earlier work on infrastructure agreement. We didn't reach an agreement, but she tried her best to get something done. Has been driven home by every mother and father with a child at home during the COVID crisis. That is, thank God, abating. This deal makes key investments to put people to work all across the country, building transmission lines, upgrading the power grid to be more energy efficient and resilient, and extreme weather to be able to sustain extreme weather and the climate crisis. We're going to do it all without raising a cent from earners below $400,000. There's massive investment going on among the autocrats. One of the underlying questions is, can democracies compete with autocratic enterprises in the 21st century? But I'm getting to work with Congress right away on the other half of my economic agenda as well, of moving forward on a majority basis when we are at deep odds with one another, so-called reconciliation process. So I want to thank you all, and God bless you. And now I'll take a few questions before the helicopter leaves without me from the press.
Mr. President, what assurances do you have at this point that you have sufficient Democratic support both in the Senate and the House to move both on this bipartisan deal and on the reconciliation package?
You always ask me those things. Nobody knows for certain. It's your job, but you know it's not a reasonable question. And the reason I say that, I may have been critical. The idea of my telling you now that I know what every senator, how they're going to vote, is just not, I don't know that. For example, I talk about, well, why would Biden compromise? Well, when's the last time, if you had asked me whether or not I'd be able to get passenger rail service of $66 billion worth, largest investment ever since Amtrak came about. I asked for 90, got $66 billion. Talk about public transit, $49 billion for public transit. When I raised that before, some of you looked at me like, where have you been, Biden? You've been spending too much in China or something. I haven't been to China. Electric buses, $7.5 billion. I asked for 15. I couldn't get all of it, but we compromised. Electric infrastructure, that is charging stations along the roads. I asked for 15, I got 7.5. These are significant down payments on things that we finally got after the skillful negotiation on the part of my cabinet and my team, led by Mr. Ricchetti. From Alaska and the Senator from New Hampshire, they've never broken their word. I'm from Maine, they've never broken their word from their friends. And by the way, my party, everybody tells me what my party is. My party is divided. Well, my party is divided. My party is divided, but my party is also rational. Number two, you notice I didn't have that bleak view you all had. You said 48 hours ago, it didn't look good. It looked good to me 48 hours ago. Looked good to our team 48 hours ago. 72 hours ago, it looked good too. Wasn't there yet. But you guys know me too well. I'm going to drive you crazy the next 4 years because I'm going to tell you the truth as I see it. I know the Senate and the House better than most of you know it. I've bet my whole life that's what I've done. Doesn't mean I'm going to turn out to be right all the time. But I'm not going to negotiate with the press while I'm negotiating and privately with my colleagues. And these are really tough decisions, Senators. I don't in any way dismiss what Senator Murphy says about the environment. Don't dismiss it at all. Just remind him, I wrote the bill on the environment. Why would I not be for it? But that doesn't stop. I mean, that stops, but what doesn't stop is the saying, It's like on a last example I'll give, I promise I won't do this to you again, but the one thing I can say for all of you, you do accurately report what I say. Problem is I disappoint you because I can't answer all your questions and negotiate with you before I negotiate with my colleagues. But I really think the public understands and they're seeing. The proof is in what's happening. We're going to increase more, and guess what? Remember you were asking me, and I'm not being critical, y'all, I really mean this. It was legitimate questions you're asking me. Asking me, well, you know, guess what? Employers can't find workers. I said, yeah, pay them more. This is an employees bargaining chip now. What's happening? They're going to have to compete and start paying hardworking people a decent wage. And by the way, talk of inflation. The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great, you know. So again, if it turns out that what I've done so far, what we've done so far, is a mistake, it's going to show. It's going to show the economy is not going to grow like it wasn't before. People aren't going to have jobs with increased pay like it was before. People are going to be out of work like it was before with no options. Unemployment's going to continue to climb instead of continue to go down. If that happens, then my policies didn't make a lot of sense. But I'm counting on it not. That's why counting on it's working. I've got to get a helicopter.
Will you travel to Florida, sir? Can we ask you about Florida, what you've learned and what you
Oh,
hope to
yes, I
have?
apologize. Yes, thank you, my president. I've spoken with, coincidentally, the mayor of Miami-Dade was in my office yesterday. And I talked to her today, not about that, obviously.
What are you hoping the Vice President can do at the border tomorrow?
Done a great job so far, and the reason why it's important that she go down, she's now set up the criteria. I've been spoken with the President of Mexico, Obama, visited the region, to know what we need to do. Thank you very much.
Do you know anything on these reports about moving Afghan nationals to other countries who helped during the war?
They're going to come. We've already begun the process. Those who helped us are not going to be left behind.
You know what country they're going to move to first?
I don't know that. I'll be meeting with with Ghani tomorrow. He's coming to my office. That will be discussion, but they're welcome here, just like anyone else who risked their lives to help us.
And Mr. President, any more